9:05, Tuesday, May 28th. Quorum of the Commissioners Court is present. The judge is en route. Quorum is present. Legal notices have been posted. The court is now duly called. Do I get a motion?
Second.
Got a motion? Second to open court. All those in favor? Those opposed? Chairs in the affirmative. Will the bailiff please open court?
All rise. The Dallas County Commissioners Court is now in session for the month of May 2013 term with Honorable Judge Jenkins presiding. Please remain standing for the invocation.
Inabstention. The guest this morning will be the indicator of Dr. Garcia.
Yes, Commissioner Price, colleagues, members of the audience, the invocation is going to be given this morning by one of our best, our IT director, Stanley Victor, Mayor Stanley. Thank you.
Good morning. Let us pray. Dear Father God, we thank you for this opportunity, oh God, to come and to bow before you. Dear God, to thank you, oh God, for this day. And even now, God, you say in your word that if anyone seeks wisdom, they should ask it of you. And even now, God, we want to trust you in all that we do, typically for this commissioner court session. Father, we ask that you look down upon these commissioners that you have elected and have placed in this particular position, oh God, that you would bless them, oh God, with wisdom, understanding, and knowledge and discernment. God, we thank you, oh God, that they will trust you in all that they do. God, we ask you to continue to bless them and God, give them wisdom, oh God, so that they might be able to do the work that you have called them and set them and appointed them to do, oh God, in this place. God, we ask you to continue to not only give them your divine wisdom, oh God, but give them your divine favor and the anointing, oh God, to do that which you have called them to do. Father, we pray, oh God, that you continue to watch over the county judge as he continues his travels here as well, that you give him safe passage as well. And even now, Father God, we ask that you continue to bless the commissioners so that as they deliberate this morning, that God, that you will give them the wisdom of Solomon. God, that they might be able to choose the way, oh God, that you would have them to go, oh God, and even as they deliberate and to consider, oh God, the many different choices and demands, oh God, that are placed upon them. God, we ask you to continue to give them wisdom so they might be able to choose the path that is right and just before you. They might look out for those folks, oh God, that cannot help themselves, that don't have a voice, that they might be able to speak for them. Not only to speak for those that are the haves, but also to look out for those that are the have-nots. God, we ask you to bless these department heads, oh God, that also work here as well. God, we ask you to continue to give them wisdom and understanding. And bless every staff member, oh God, that is here so that they might be able to do their work with diligence. God, we thank you even now that you would help us, oh God, to flow today, oh God, so we might be able to do everything in the spirit of unity and teamwork, and we might be able to do it in perfect peace. And let it be so in the name of Christ Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen.
The first item today is resolutions. Commissioner Price has one resolution.
Thank you, Judge. Commissioners, I'm going to ask Diana Grafton to come forward and all of those who would surround her and support her this morning. The resolution reads, whereas Diana Grafton, with 30 years of service to Dallas County, began with the county auditor on December the 6th, 1982, in a clerical position for which she applied in response to a newspaper ad. And whereas Diana's career left fingerprints on 6 significant desks: accounts payable, funds control, audit supervisor, administrative assistant, audit manager, and finally, the first assistant county auditor. And whereas she has worked tirelessly and given so much of herself and talents to develop procedures, auditing offices, reconciling accounts, testifying for lawsuits, leading training seminars, and developing staff. And whereas with increasing historical knowledge and understanding, she reduced her normal workday from 12 hours, which we call a half day, to only 11 hours plus a day during recent years. And whereas the long work hours competed with her family and home tasks, which her husband and 2 dogs will look forward to enjoying her full time. Also, her kids and grandkids in Ohio are pleased that her work schedule will no longer interfere with long visits. And whereas Diana now joins the parade of prior managers and supervisors who have retired before her, Barbara Prather, Bob Bridger, Walter Robinson, Nash Long, Mel Stepp, and Joe Jack Mills, the staff left behind who offer recognition of her real talent, a can-do attitude, high energy, and a respect of the community. And whereas she has earned the admiration and respect from her colleagues and the entire auditor staff at Dallas County for her dedication, enthusiasm, professionalism, hard work, and most of all, her memory. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby recognize and extend sincere appreciation to Diana Grafton for 30 years of faithful service and further wishes her best wishes on this her retirement. And I so much.
Second.
All those in favor, put us all on. Second.
I-
Gotta fix those, remember the aye, because everybody said second. Diana?
Well, before Diana, Ms. Porter. Ms. Porter. And then the judge.
How do you say goodbye is what we're dealing with this week. And with Diana's strong work ethic and her dedication, her get-it-done style, and things that are just really hard to get. Someone said that Diana's one of our greatest assets. And an asset, when an asset's retired, is fully appreciated. So we kind of have we do have something called an historical asset that we don't appreciate. We simply appreciate them. So Diana is an historical asset.
Judge.
I didn't bring any remarks or prepare any remarks, but, Diana, I've known her over the years as I was at the DA's office and then dealt with her when I was in private practice. She really has an enormous amount of dedication to Dallas County, to the auditor's office. She's going to leave, or take with her a tremendous amount of institutional memory and stories and kind of a living history of Dallas County. And Diana Grafton, we're all going to miss her very much. I wish her the very best in her retirement.
I appreciate all the kind words. I'm kind of excited and kind of saddened at the same time. It's been my home for 30 years. Stop it. But it's been family because as Commissioner read in the resolution, my family, except for my husband and my dogs, are not in Texas, and it's kind of hard to get away to see them. And it seems like I've spent most of my life here. I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the people. I enjoyed working in the auditor's office. I totally and completely respect what the office stands for. I appreciate being from Ohio, the way government works there is a little different. The auditors are elected, and they are, most of them, corrupt. I know several that in my own hometown that had gone to federal prison with some other elected officials because they collaborated a little bit too much. But I think the way the government is set in Texas, where it's independent and having independence, works extremely well. I respect the ethics and the values that the auditor's office brings to the county. And we're here to protect and serve and kind of try to keep low profile. I had hoped to kind of just fade off into the sunset, but Virginia said that wasn't going to happen. So I do appreciate all the kind words and comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gambrell,
I'm not going to be able to attend the luncheon or the party. But Diana, I just want to tell you, you did a great job in Dallas County. And you're a wonderful person, and we appreciate all that you've done. So thank you very much. You are an asset to Dallas County. Thank you.
Well, he's one of the two people you can remember, Nash Long, Joe Jackson. One of the things that those of us who always do our year-end review, help me with Virginia, what is the review called? The auditors, that we'll get the outside auditor that comes in, that always talks about the.
Capital management.
Right. They basically always comment on our auditor's office and basically said even the fact that we have historically not supplied them with all of the
Technology needed.
sufficient tools in the toolbox that this office has continued to manage and keep Dallas County on the right path. Virginia will remember. I don't think, Diana, you had the fortune, but back in the days where they used to select 2 or 3 of us, and we used to have to go to New York and be part of the review. We started talking about bond ratings. We had to go to New York and spend that time with the rating services in their offices. And so this auditor's office has really made sure that Dallas County has been very successful without being elected in terms of all you do. So I just want to say thank you for being a part of that team all these 30 years.
Thank you.
Again, thank you again.
Thank you again.
And Commissioner Daniels said he's going into retirement, the best is yet to come. No, you haven't seen nothing yet.
We're not done yet.
We're not done. You're not done yet. You're not done yet.
Neither you nor we are done yet.
next item is the consent agenda resolution.
So,
All those in favor?
Aye.
The next item is the motion on the bills. So motion on the bills, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, we'll take a motion on court orders 10 through 38. Motion on court orders.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion?
I was going to make some comments, Judge.
Okay.
2 items. The first item that I want to mention is item number 38. It's a briefing item that is voted today on the agenda, which is the Walnut Field reconfiguration and underpass below I-35 to improve pretty much all the traveling, going from east to west under I-35. And obviously this is the application for Tiger grant funds, which it's great to see what it really means. Thank you, Ms. Blair. All this time I thought tiger means something coming from the zoo. But, the transportation investment generated economic recovery grant is extremely important. We've seen in the last year some of the results here in Dallas County with the trolley, and other projects. So I am delighted, and I know you briefed Honorable Daniel and I about some of the impact of this application. And unless you want to say something else, I'm just, very happy to see this coming forward.
Again, one thing about these grants is that they're really difficult to get, but one thing is we're still chipping along to try to get each one of them shovel ready. And at 35, we're getting closer and closer. We did put it in the last go round, and we're going to try again each and every time to get it closer and closer to trying to get it approved.
Thank you, and I appreciate your work and your staff for all this.
hopefully that other one is going to be ready for.
Yeah, the other one that we were working on, that one, we're actually gonna just continue to work on it and try on the next go round. We weren't prepared for that one at all. So we tried to go to the last minute to try to get everything together, but after talking with COG and talking to others, we realized that we need probably another year to get that one ready.
And on forward 18, I talked to Mr. Brown as well as Mr. Losberg. This is some of the money from the Grand Prairie Ordinance Center. We know we still have a few details that we will be taking care of with this fund. And with that, I appreciate Mr. Losberg, Mr. Brown, obviously Mr. Martin is not here right now, but I know he's being labor of love. I appreciate it. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. Any further discussions on the court orders? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None, motion carries unanimously. That takes us to our briefing session, which consists of items to be considered in a subsequent session. Mr. Agel, will you take us to the briefing session today?
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. Briefing for May 20th. The first thing is going to be County Judge Employee of the Month Award winners, and we'll be doing both April and May. I'm going to do my best to pronounce his names, but forgive me if I mess them up. In April, the Health and Human Services Department, Jess Wade, who's an Emergency Volunteer Programs Coordinator. April, Information Technology, Shahiri Sathaye, Senior Workload Database Developer. The Juvenile Department, Isabel Aguilar, Administrative Coordinator.
Yeah, we just stand up if you're here.
And as if you're here, if you will stand. Applause. Continuing with April, Tony Smith, our GIS technician. From Swift's Crime Lab, Lori Fuller, who is a breath alcohol technical supervisor. Those were our April month winners. For May, from the Auditor's Department, Willie Hatch, who's an accounting clerk 2. Health and Human Services Department, Marsha Taylor, who is our center manager. From the Juvenile Department, Steve McGee, probation officer. Public Works, Kathy Reed, property appraiser. The sheriff. From the Sheriff Department, Matthew Randall, who is a detective. Assume he's not here.
Yeah.
Again, from Swift's, Dr. Stacy McDonald, who is our Deputy Chief of Physical Evidence Section. And finally, for the month of May, from the Tax Office at Devette Rogers, who's a leader. May month winners. Item 2B would be an update from Director Thompson in the West Nile virus.
All right, Judge, Commissioner, the update, I wanted to just give a few notes here. Talked to Craig over the weekend, and again, we furnished this copy of the SB 186 to all the surrounding counties as well, so they're familiar with getting it out to their municipalities regarding SB 186. These are the trap data that Dr. Perkins is out today will be submitting to the CDC. Today there have been 0. We've had all negatives in terms of mosquito pools in Dallas County. And just a quick update on our vendors report. Again, BDCI has been doing trapping. All of our test results have been negative. Map Vision, based on a suggestion last week, I'm moving the go live date to June the 5th. I'm going to do a demonstration to the court on June the 4th and kind of walk you through the elements of the Map Vision will include submitting service requests where residents will be able to do that online, report dead birds, view adult-side treatments as well as scheduled treatment. So we'll show that next week, and then we'll go live the next day in terms of that. Our insecticide resistance testing, we did ship eggs down there. Some were damaged in terms of traveling. There were some samples that he will check, but if we need to recollect those samples, we're going to do that. So that's not a big issue. The West Nile surveillance report you'll see here again, we did over 600 tests, all have been negative today. I will point out that if you look at this time last year when we received our first positive mosquito pool, so we'll keep our fingers crossed that on the 28th of last year, but to date we've not had any positive mosquito pools here that have been tested by Dallas County lab. And then again, you see the
How do you
number
know if there's been any positives tested by the state's lab?
Yeah, one of the things that we're able to view now, based on last year, that we're able to go in and view, and so we have that capacity of real time. We can go, well, it's a 10-day turnaround for them to test, but we can view it once it's made available. So that's something different that we didn't have last year.
Will that be part of the map vision?
We're probably going to add that on as a component. What we're going to do on the map vision is make sure that our lab turns around in 24 hours so we can post that information, and then we will post the other municipalities who are sending their samples to the state within that 10-day period. Yes, we can add
That side.
Yes.
But historically, our lab has always done the kind of turnaround.
Oh, our lab has always done 24-hour turnaround. It's the state lab that yeah. But the difference is we're able now to view the results real time. As the state is posting information to the cities, we're now allowed to look at that data. So we got users rights, so we can look at it as opposed to waiting for
You not only look at it, but can you pull the data? Or
yeah, we can pull the data. The data is posted, and we can look at it. In the past, we had to wait till the cities got the data and then get provided to us. Now we can look at the data.
Pull that data our side. So exactly. Citizens just had one site to go to.
Right. One site, but one of the things I'm going to talk about next week is the 14 cities that we contract with, that site is going to be focused on that. Right.
Have there been any other positive test results from any of the other testing in the area?
Not positive mosquitoes. And so you see all of them negative. We go to the next slide. And so we're doing a testing survey. I was in a meeting with the state. And one of the things that I wanted to point out to them is that we have, and that goes back to what Commissioner Cantrell pointed out, is that there are a number of municipalities who are contracting with private contractors and laboratories. My suggestion is that as municipalities come online, they consult with the state health department and state lab around the procedure for methodology for testing. You have two types of testing that are going on. You see the RAMP and then you see the RT-PCR. What we're suggesting is RT-PCR is the gold standard for testing, and there's been some debate about RAMP testing, and so what we prefer is that municipalities consult with the state laboratory regarding the methodology that should be used as it relates to that. That way everybody's on the same page. Our lab and the state lab uses the RT-PCR. I don't want to get into
Mr. Well, let me just ask you, because this is the part of that Texas Department of State Health Service, the West Nile Virus Control and Response Guide.
Right, exactly.
Is this under the vector control?
Yeah, page 8 is where I'm referencing in my review of the document. When we're asked to look at it, page 8, there's another page, I believe, page 23. But page 8, what my thought is that we should insert in the document, again, it's up to the state, but we feel that we commend municipalities for going out and getting their own contractor and doing the laboratory testing. We think that there should be a guidance that says, in the state guide, consult with the state health lab regarding the methodology to be used for the testing. That's a simple
Well,
process.
because in terms of the communique, it depends. As you said, you got stuff coming from private labs, and it gets out there, and there's no, let's say, vetting, if you will.
Well, and if you look at the document I sent in Virginia, there was issues around the RAMP testing, which were false positives. And so what we're saying is that we're on the
That
same.
happens on both sides, right, Mr. Thompson? I mean, how different could it be from a private lab to a law?
Well, and that's what we want to clarify. If we allow the state to vet that, then we're on the same page. And so that's what we're trying to prevent. In 2013.
What you're saying is all the private labs should vet it with the state, regardless
But
of.
municipalities should consult with the state before they enter into a contract with a private lab.
Okay.
What we talked about is having a state, which would be basically what we're already doing, but a state guideline that would make sure that your private labs are doing the same rigor of testing that the state lab and the Dallas County lab does. There'd be no question about lab results from wherever they came from,
if we all follow the same protocol.
But what we're saying, though, that is presently not being done. And that was some of the concern that when it was out there.
And that's why I sent them an email this morning where I'm asking that that be inserted. That's been a discussion item. And so we're trying to put that in the guide. And again, it's based on our local health response that we have to deal with. So I wanted to make sure, I think that's okay. So next week we'll give an update on the map.
What is our access to the private vendors? If the city contracts with a private vendor, what's our access to that information?
Well, let me point out what we're trying to do going forward, then I'll answer the question of what's been in the past. We're now asking on the private vendors is that they split a sample and provide it to our lab, and they can utilize it at their lab, and so we're able to have an apple-to-apple comparison. What was done in the past is that we didn't have that ability. The last time that happened, the vendor that basically threw away the sample, so there was no way to measure that. So going forward, I think on the plus side is now we're asking that those samples be split. But again, in the guidance, if you look at page 8, we think that if you drill down and say to municipalities, before you enter into a contract with a private laboratory, consult with the state lab, and that way we have the gold standard as that operational procedure going forward.
We'll include notice to the public about those results. In other words, you've got access now to the state's results and to our 14 cities. If this municipalities are using private vendors,
well, we're counting those. We just put an asterisk by that they were identified by a private lab.
okay.
Some of there's a lot more cooperation, coordination among state and locals, private, public.
Oh, yeah. We commend anyone who wants to go and do the contract with a laboratory. We're just saying, based on research in terms of false positives, we just don't want to have a confusion down the road regarding where they were determined and did they use PCR gold standard or did they use the round test?
Remember, that was important.
That's true. Right. Thank you all. We'll do the map vision on that.
Thank you very much.
Judge, Commissioners, continuing briefing. Item 2B, Still Health and Human Services recommends approval of a memorandum of understanding between Dallas County Public Health Preparedness Division and Dominion Realty LP Renaissance Tower. Item 3, Juvenile. The Youth Service Advisory Board recommends the allocation of the JURA funds.
And you know, this is a great item because it really creates the programs, Dr. Smith, for some of the youth to see a different world. And I really appreciate this item being here. All this money is the money that has been approved by the advisory board, and it's.
It has, Commissioner, not only by the advisory board, but also by our juvenile board. And we are so appreciative of the support and the monies that we get from the JURA fund to bring in programs that are specifically for our kids and the 10% that we give to the foster care program. So this just allows us to do a better job for our programming for kids without having to utilize additional staff or additional services. So it's a great tool to utilize for our department.
And I like it. Nothing like to go to a museum. Of course, I would like to see the Latino Cultural Center over there as well. But hey, you know, we have plenty in Dallas, and that's enough.
Well, I just want to thank the department for their guide in terms of helping to direct the framework of where these funds can go, because that's from, we've got a number of individuals who continue to solicit and inquire, and there's every once in a while an opportunity to veer out. And I don't think that was the intent of the JURA fund in terms of those individuals making those donations. So I think these are within the parameters of what was intended. People made their donations to the JURA fund, and the best utilizing supplementing those programs.
Dr. Smith, you do have a performance measurement tool for each of these programs, and you're measuring.
Yes, Commissioner. Part of the proposal process, it has the outcome measures that are in there, and then we are going to do probably evaluations every 6 months to make sure how they're doing. So that is filtered and tied into every proposal that we receive.
Continuing briefing, item 4, tax assessor collector. Recommends approval of a contract between Dallas County Tax Office and Or Motors of Dallas, Inc., DBA, or Toyota to operate a dealer remote sticker system. Item number 5, Information Technology Department recommends approval of the professional services contract with Indico Corporation for Dallas County Incident Module, DC Dex Phases 2 and 3 for the agency rollout.
Now, by the way, Mr. Raines, we got stickers on all of our windows now.
I'm sorry, window stickers?
Seals.
Oh, yes, sir. All the ones that people are running into, yes.
Yes. Thank you.
No, that's paid through Jack Bill, grant on the DCI.
Yes, it is Jack right there.
Item 6, Public Works, 6A, Judge Commissioners, that item was in your formal agenda. That is the Tiger Grant applications. Item 6B was pulled from the agenda. It was brought back at a subsequent time. Item 7, Budget, Conference Travel, Training Requests. Item 7B, a request from the County Auditor's Office for reclassification of position. They're asking for the deletion of the Grants Audit Manager who reports to the first County Assistant Auditor, and the addition of a Grants Audit Director who will report directly to the County Auditor. If approved, this will be referred to the HR Civil Service for classification. Item 7C, Constable Precinct 2, request for their DDA initiative. Item 7D, Justice of the Peace 2-1, DDA Management Initiative. And item 7E is the update from Mr. Ryan Brown and your FY 2014 budget.
You know, before the presentation, I just wanted to mention, that we also have in our agenda under the miscellaneous information, the CIO progress report from IT. And I want to thank, obviously, our department, Mr. Vikram, Honorable Daniels, and Commissioner Cantrell, for keeping us, updated about it. I know that Commissioner Daniel was at CJAP, our CJAP meeting this last week, and it was very good to see you, Commissioner, and obviously to talk about some of the IT issues that happened to be in front of the JP courts and Oracle, and it's addressed here. So Commissioner Daniel was kind enough to commit herself to help us to fix some of the bail bonds glitches that we've been having as well. So thank you for the progress report. It's really appreciated, and for my colleagues' leadership as well.
Is that a shout across the bow before we get to that piece? I noticed we're moving major technology.
In the budget, we're moving it, Commissioner, but hey, change is good. We'll see. If not, we will hear around here that it's
Some comes from outside, but there's a lot of good people out here who work together to see what we can do to come to the 21st century. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, hey, it's going to cost. Technology doesn't cost. The other thing that I wanted to say is, and I don't see Mayor Sherman here, but Commissioner, it's time for renewing that membership for the Texas One. De Soto has been doing a great job, and I'm glad to be part of, with Commissioner Price about that membership. I thank you, the Southern Sector has done great.
Yeah, I submitted that a couple of weeks ago.
But, no, I mean,
Yes, this week.
and we continue to see, the impact of some of this, how do we say it, the projects coming forward to the members first. So, great to be part of it. So, thank you, Mr. Ryan. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, colleagues.
And Ryan, before you get to that, let me take a moment to commend Sheriff Valdez, and Lieutenant Kitchens, everyone who works on the fake inspection stickers. Michael Morris and everyone at the COG, but particularly Senator Royce West. We've got a problem in Dallas County and throughout the state with fake inspection stickers that are very sophisticated, come in from Mexico and cannot tell the difference from these inspection stickers to put them on board. And Senator West was able to give bipartisan support and pass a bill that was strongly favored by all the law enforcement in North Texas to unify air inspection, vehicle inspection with registration, which our hope is that will greatly diminish the problem with fake inspection stickers, which not only put cars on the road that don't meet emission standards, but it funnels money to people who are involved in other serious organized crime activities. So kudos to our sheriff, the COG, and particularly Senator West, who carried that bill that just passed 2 days ago.
Judge Commissioners, if you don't mind, note Mr. Brown's presentation will then set a lot of questions, so what I will do is finish the passive briefing and turn it over to Mr. Brown. Item 8 is your information, contains your jail population report, Office of Budget and Evaluation Reserve Balance report for May 22nd, your CIO progress report commented on by Dr. Garcia already. From purchasing, you have 2 annual contract extensions. And from your Health and Human Services Department, you have your HHS update. Item 9 contains your miscellaneous equipment and telecommunications requests. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Brown.
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. I wanted to provide you an FY14 budget update. I had prepared this last week. We mailed it out to you guys on Friday afternoon about 5 o'clock. It has not changed since that version. There's also a version on the dais for anybody who wants to go follow it through. This is the standard table 1 where you see the FY15 budget column going there. Then you have your projection column. Really, in the projection column, all I want to do is focus in on that. We are going to end the year about $9.4 million above target, so we ended up with a good year on that regard. Then this is the first time you're going to see an FY14 projection in a column that kind of shows some adjustments. The first thing is the beginning balance. It just carries over, but it is $10 million from the beginning balance that we started this year with. That is primarily because we continue to have, while we're having good finances, we continue to have reoccurring revenues to be less than reoccurring expenditures. You can see that it would be $436 million in revenues this year and $457 million in expenditures. And so that's where you get that drawdown. On the revenue side, I carried everything flat straight across with the exception of taxes. I wanted to point out that this is the projected a 3% increase. That also includes a 1.19 cent increase, which is the difference between the movement of IT operating back into the general fund and movement of utilities out of the general fund to allow us for the, and we talked briefly about this in the past. One of the things about the IT.
Can you walk us through it slower for the people? Okay.
So what we talked about with IT is several years ago in one of our budgetary savings, we moved IT into major technology. At that time, we moved 0.77 cents of our tax rate to cover the cost of that. The IT cost grew at a faster pace than obviously the property values grew because obviously it went down. And so over time, operations went down. So over time, we were eating into the 0.5 cents that we'd always set up in the technology fund to fund projects. Last year, or this year actually, we increased that 0.77 cents by 1/10 of a cent, put it up to 0.87 cents. That still was not covering the reoccurring operating costs of that. So previously I had talked about the concept of let's move IT back into the general fund and move the tax rate across and have a negative cost to the general fund. And that cost was approximately, I think I calculated where it is, $3.1 million to the general fund. So that's still something, it's just, I'm showing it here, it's not a decision that has been made. We obviously will have the opportunity to continue the dialogue of do we do it this year, do we do it next year, do we not do it at all.
Does 3.1 represent the difference between the current rate and our projected cost for next year?
It is, yes, it is the current cost of IT on both staffing and operation, and then what the 0.87 cents would bring in even at the higher tax rate. Property value.
Against what you project it will cost next year.
Correct. So
not against this year's cost, but next year's cost.
Next year's cost. And so as I said, we talked about it, we knew it was going to have a cost. And it is probably the right thing if your goal is to installate the half cent for projects. Now, there may be some dialogue we'll have that says that some of that staff is really working on projects, and maybe we keep some staff in the technology fund, or we don't. Those will all be decisions that I'll be able to lay out there in concert with the IT director's vision to let you guys make those decisions.
Right, but, you know, when the judge said they talked about clarity, I just want to make sure that's what we're working on is next year.
Yes, we are working on next year.
Yeah,
This year is there, and we still project on it. Well, you know, Virginia will eventually give me her revenue projections. I have not used those yet because I haven't seen them. And then we'll continue to modify our projection on expenditures for the current year. But effectively, the current year, while it'll adjust a little bit, it's really kind of going to come in about where you see. So it's really kind of gearing you guys into a mindset as we walk into next year's budget process. And so I just want to kind of that's what this is laying it out there.
Well, and in light of all the submissions now, about clarity, next year's budget, and at the end of the day, that whole switch, and that's what I was trying to do that shot across the bow with Dr. Garcia talked about it. I think that's a decision that we still really need to make. I mean, we can kind of hold it in our cards, but that's a decision that we need to make and decide, because that will affect, you know, the bottom line, especially with a $4.7 million deficit.
Absolutely, and as I said, we've talked about it, and I chose to put it in here as a numerical view versus saying, here's where you stand, and oh, by the way, here's other costs that you might have to do. This is the first time where I really did the complete math and pushed it in there to say, this is what it would look like if you made that decision.
Still should be a way to block off that half cent and keep everything in MTF, but categorize that project money.
You can do it, but the alternative is you would then move tax rate from the general fund to major technology fund or you'd have to cut his staff. In other words, you'd have to adjust expenditures or you'd have to adjust revenue to continue to.
Any expenses that the court approves has to be paid for through the general fund. That's the only resource, revenue source we have.
Right. And by moving it back in the general fund, it becomes clearer. That's one of the reasons I think it makes sense, is it does provide that clarity that every time you do something on the IT that increases their staffing or increases their operating costs, it's going to come directly out of the general fund where the rest of the expenses are. And it does provide that insulation of the half cent. And I think that clearly was the goal of the court when they created the Major Technology Fund, and I think it's probably the goal of the court as it is today. The question is, can you afford it? And that's a decision that courts have to have.
Well, if this isn't the year to do it, I think we can still protect the half cent.
Well, and that was my point. I think that's a decision still for us. It is a decision we usually do.
Well, just there were so many different costs that weren't taken into consideration when IT projects were approved.
Right.
Ongoing, all of that. So.
I mean, well, and I think that at some point, actually, I don't say I think, I know at some point in the near future, we're going to sit down here and talk really in depth about the IT operating in the way that that's done. Because we have a variety of different things. This is just assuming a status quo. This doesn't even include additional staff that the IT department requested in compensation issues that they have to have addressed or would like to see addressed. So this is just purely status quo.
Before you get off of this page, utilities costs, we should see a big savings next year in utility costs because we renegotiated our utility rates down by 30-some-odd%. Why are you taking this to zero and moving them somewhere else?
There's two things. First of all, you'll notice that in the budget for this year was $12.6 million. We're already seeing those decreased utility costs because of the rate decisions. And so that's why you have the 10.9. Because we're borrowing the $40 million to do the energy projects, and that has a payback. The payback is in utility costs. I'm moving the utility costs into the major capital fund where the $40 million effectively is paid from, so that when that utility cost continues to dive down as a result of the efficiencies in our energy efficiency projects, the savings will effectively pay that 40 million back, and therefore you're not impacting your projects related to transportation or any buildings. That's the mechanics of it. There is possibly some, you could say that some of this has to do with rate changes, and so you could keep some of the savings in the general fund. You could do that. It's another decision we could talk about doing. I don't.
Still have to
Yes.
40 million payback.
Yes.
But here's my concern with that. I'm all for the $40 million and the 10-year payback, but since we negotiated down our rates last year, which had nothing to do with people doing the work in buildings, it had to do with seizing on the opportunity in the energy market to walk in lower rates. I don't really want to give our vendor the credit for that.
The contract has already recognizes that the rate went down, so we have a factor in the contract. So
Okay.
when we go through and do the efficiency audits, they already have a
So
factor down.
efficiency audits are going to be based on kilowatts used, not
Correct.
on what we managed to negotiate a rate.
Correct.
Okay.
And the reason I really don't want to leave any of the savings in the general fund unless we need to is rates will change. And they're more, there's only really one direction they're likely to go, and that is up. By the way, since we locked in that rate, they have gone up, and it's turned out to be a fabulous decision that we had when we locked them in at that point.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, we did it.
Well, it's better to be lucky than smart.
Really judging in this case, it worked out.
Yes, they really did. And so far, it's worked out great because they have moved up and there's no ratchet up. There was only ratchets down. So it turned out to be really good. Staying on that FY14 projection column, you'll see that I do have a $2 million increase in health insurance in here. That's as we progress down towards the health savings plans and we see more information coming up. That number may not be enough, it may be too much, but I did want to put it in there because I've been saying $2 million. Additionally, you'll see the $8.9 million on the operating. That's nothing more than bringing in the operating from the IT. So that's the combination of the $7.9 million IT salaries and the $8.9 million in operating, which you can see real quick is $14 million, but you only got the $10 million on the, a little over $10 million on the tax rate. So there's that. And then you'll see the utilities being popped back out, and then you'll see a big drop in your capital. One of the things that we've been doing recently is that we doubled up on our vehicle purchases in the current year, so that because we really did have some vehicles that needed to be replaced out. Plus, we had a large beginning balance that I wanted to use on a one-time, not reoccurring expenses. So we used it on vehicles, we've used it on the cottages project, we've used it on the plaza project, we've used it on a variety of other projects. And so that's why that's dropping down $7 million, because there was $10 million we built in there. Those were all one-time, they're going away. The $3 million represents vehicles for 14, which we have not finalized the list yet. The second year of the cottages, which was $500,000, and then furniture, normal furniture replacement. So the $3 million will move a little bit as we progress forward, but that's a good number for right now.
You just didn't double up on the vehicles because you doubled up on the vehicles, you doubled up on the vehicles.
Well, because we had replaced it for 4 years, and we needed to, yeah, and it's something we deferred, and it was kind of an impact in our ability to provide safe and efficient vehicles, and so that's why we did it.
That's what I wanted to know.
So what you'll see is that I'm showing a 14 projection of 461, almost $462 million. That would bring an ending balance at 43.7 million. The target would be the 48.5, and so this presentation shows that we're $4.7 million short. It's early in the process, and so that's not causing me lots of heartburn. I'm not going to say we need to start cutting things, but it does show you that we really aren't going to have a lot of money, assuming we do everything we've already presented here, for new positions or for compensation increases. So that's something that we're going to have to dialogue on over the next 90 days roughly.
Well, I think it needs to, because that's where kind of where one of our beginning points. Of course, to get to the next slide, that's appropriate.
And what I wanted to do here was really just kind of get that mindset and that dialogue going. What wasn't included in the 14 budget I just showed you that was already on a shortfall basis was compensation increases. A 1% increase in pay is roughly $3 million. I always like to show you what a tax rate increase is, just to give you a kind of a point of reference. 1 cent will bring in about $16 million. So far, I've received requests for 68 positions to the tune of $5.4 million. None of those are reflected in that budget. Oh, I apologize. In the prior slide, the $11.4 million, that does include a $1.5 million number for additional DSO staff, because MedMod we will need to start staffing up for MedMod. It's 138 bunks. We met last week and we'll continue to meet to determine what the right staffing number is and move the medical functions from Parkland and around. So there will be some additional staff. We just haven't settled it on the exact time yet.
But that really doesn't have as much to do with.
I consider that you have no option but to add that. So whatever that ends up being, you're going to have to do it. That's why I plugged it in there versus saying like these 58, 68 positions I didn't plug in because these you have options. You can't do it, you don't have to do it. Reference that, oh, by the way, the sheriff hasn't submitted their budget yet, so their position requests are included in the 68 positions. The district attorney requested 30 positions. I won't read them all, but there gives you an idea of what's been requested. And this is just your calendar. We'll continue in June to meet with the departments on the PIRs they've submitted. July 15th, we'll get you a book to take so you start digesting. The July 25th, we'll get the certified tax roll. August 5th through the 8th, we will hold budget hearings, so if you can check your calendars to make sure that's going to work for you. It's later than I wanted it to be, but because of the last 3 weeks of July, we'll not have commissioners' court meetings. I didn't want to try to do budget hearings during that period of time. I don't think it'll be problematic. I think it just means we'll have to make decisions pretty quickly. I will probably shorten up that budget hearing week so that really only departments that have, where I haven't come in as or, the need to come in. So hopefully we can get it done on Monday, Tuesday afternoon, and Wednesday.
Do you have the details? I mean, if anybody can make a request, I want to, and Russell Court want to see it too, but I want to see the detail. If somebody's asking for X number.
Well, Commissioner Cantrell and Commissioner Price, you guys remember, you're going to get the big book again. So it's going to have everything the department submitted, and then it's going to have my recommendation and my summary of where is it. So we're going to go back to the A, B, and C, D rating. So you're going to get A, which means it's self-liquidating, or it's critical, you can't do without it, which would be like MedMod DSOs. You'll have B, which are critical need. In other words, the budget office really feels this needs to be funded and is going to say, we're going to say, really, we should fund it. C will be the majority of these positions, and that is the kind of no critical need identified, and it really then falls into, do you guys want to fund it, do you not want to fund it? And then D would be just not recommended by the budget office. C being the largest category of positions. And so you'll get that book on the 15th, so you'll have all the detail you'll want to be able to look at and read at your pleasure. August 27th and September 3rd, we'll have public hearings on the tax rate. September 17th, we'll have set the tax rate. We'll adopt the budget, and October 1st, 2014, the fiscal year will end. One thing that I did not mention in here and don't have embedded in here is any of the impacts from the legislation or the session that just ended, or anything that happens in the special session. I will work with Virginia and Craig to dig through and see what may be impacted or what we have that changed in the legislation. There's things that I know that are done in there, like judicial salary increases. I'm going to build a budget with the assumption that we will push those salaries all the way through, and then you guys will have to choose to go there if you don't want to, but I feel that since they haven't had salary increases in such a long time, that it will be the goal of the court to fund those. Remember, district judges, it really doesn't change anything. You're still going to supplementally the 15,000 district judges will get what they get from the state, but it'll be really on the county judge side, that we have to pick up that full increase. And so you'll see that built in and come through here.
You mean Blackbrook County Judge is not me.
Yes. And so.
No pay increase for me, it's other people.
No pay increase for anybody.
So, unless there's any questions or anything like related to that, I will.
I want to give you and particularly Daryl, who's not here today, some kudos on the savings, on this utility savings. I serve on the Public Power Board along with 4 other county judges in the state. And in making decisions on what to do on that, Daryl for the county with Ryan's assistance, and Ray Hutchison with Bracewell Giuliani, Ben Brooks with Bracewell Giuliani, Ron Davis with First Southwest, Charlotte McKnight, Matt Bowles, our financial advisors, as well as several energy executives that were not conflicted and were not able to bid on this, but were able to give us advice, work with us through 3 or 4 meetings to help us make the best lucky guess that we could, which turned out to be, knock on wood, so far the right decision. West energy prices bottom out in the next few months. So thank y'all all for your hard work, and thanks to Matt and Charlotte, who are our financial advisors and an important part of our team.
Just a source for Coffeesburg counties because their staff did a lot of work on that. That program is through the Coffeesburg counties, pays the roof.
And oh gosh, now I've broken the Ron Kirk rule, because once you start thanking people, you can't remember them all. But there's 2 really smart guys whose names I've forgotten, who were the guys from Delaware who came up with the original hedge plan that we ended up tweaking to get this deal. Brandon someone. So Brandon, whose last name I forget, great job.
Special Republicans. Anyway, let me thank Judge Person Privilege. Dallas County Health and Human Services Department. I think all of you received the memo that Dr. Bain Cato disseminated with regards to our health department, and kudos with regards to the whole thing about West Island, the repellent, et cetera, and the leadership of our department. This is the director of Calhoun County. So DeWitt County, Victoria County Health Department. And so kudos to Mr. Thompson and his department. This basically logs, and we've known this in the past from other agencies, that other health departments around the state basically continue to log Dallas County and its leadership in this area. And so I just want to say to the department.
And welcome back, Mr. Brown. Thank you, guys, for coming back.
And I also wanted to thank, the facilities department, as well as Charles Reed and of course Mr. Ryan Brown department for the list, the facility maintenance list, colleagues that we all got on the 23rd, last Thursday. Pretty much it says, all the buildings that we have, what's the schedule for the facility maintenance, and which ones are going to be done in one step versus different phases. And the reason I mentioned this is not only to thank everybody that worked. I know it was a lot of work, and looking at the list, I can see that, why it took, several weeks. But one of the things, colleagues, that we need to be aware is that we still have over $79 million in facilities maintenance. And while I know that we don't have the capacity to do it with our current facility department, we're asking for 18 new positions in the budget, as we all saw. This basically mentions, the way we're planning to put the $40 million, Mr. Brown. But I would like to work with you, Mr. Martin, obviously staff, Mr. Heichel, and as well as the facility department, to see how we can accelerate, hopefully, some of these maintenance needs. the budget, thanks to Lord, this is, we're going to have a tax increase and hopefully we'll be able to balance it. I think right now is the time to look at how we can do a whole building by itself rather than in different stages. My experience is that while doing these maintenance in stages sometimes is the way that we have to approach is not the best way. By the time you finish the first stage is already, in the same need that we had before. So I will continue to work with you and Mr. Martin as well as facilities in seeing if there's anything else we can do to accelerate some of this maintenance.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Judge, Commissioners, you have 2 registered speakers.
All right, and will the bill please read the rules of the quorum for our speakers?
All Commissioner Court attendees are hereby advised that this meeting is conducted in accordance with provisions of Dallas County Code, Section 74-71. Visitors and registered speakers are to observe order and decorum at all times. Personal, profane, or slanderous remarks are not appropriate and will not be allowed at any time during this public meeting. Any and all clauses be kept brief in observance of time constraints. Disruptive visitors or registered speakers may be removed and are subject to penalties provided in the State of Texas Penal Code, Sections 38.13, 42.01, and 42.05. Registered individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and a maximum discussion on any one topic is limited to 30 minutes.
Our first speaker today is Ms. Becky Nocella. Ms. Nocella. Becky Nocella. And our second speaker today is Ms. Sandra Crenshaw. Ms. Crenshaw. Ms. Sandra Crenshaw. Our speakers have not made it today, so this court will now be recessed for our closed session as authorized by Chapter 91 of the Texas Government Code previously posted. Any action to declare a closed session will take place in the second open session. Then our closed session.